Hindsight 2020, actor George Clooney dropped a bombshell on CBS Sunday saying he believes putting then Vice President Kamala Harris up as the Democratic nominee in 2024 was a mistake.
Now, you may remember Clooney published a guest essay in the New York Times prior to Joe Biden dropping out of the race, calling for a new Democratic nominee. Now, on Sunday, he doubled down on his arguments in that article. Take a listen.
Chance. I wanted there to be, as I wrote in the op-ed, a primary. Let's battle test this quickly and get it up and going. I think the mistake with it being Kamala is that she had to run against her own record. And it's very hard to do if the point of running is to say, I'm not that person. You know, it's hard to do. And so she was given a very tough task. I think it was a mistake, quite honestly.
Despite eventually dropping out, President Biden and his family took offense to that article. Hunter Biden especially took it hard, railing on Clooney to Channel 5's Andrew Callahan over the summer. You might remember that. Here's what he had to say.
God bless him. You know what? He supposedly treats his friends really well. You know what I mean? Buys them things. And he's got a really great place in Lake Como, and he's great friends with Barack Obama. You, what do you have to do with anything? Why do I have to listen to you? What right do you have to step on a man who's given 52 years of his life to the service of this country and decide that you, George Clooney, are going to take out basically a full-page ad in the New York Times to undermine the president?
Well, Clooney was asked about those comments on Sunday and had a response for Hunter.
Did you see Hunter Biden's reaction?
Yeah, I saw it.
What did you make of it?
Well, I could spend a lot of time debunking many of the things he said, because many of the things he said were just outright lies. You know, Obama didn't put me up to it. It wasn't my fundraiser. It was my fundraiser. All the things. But the reality is, I don't think looking backwards like that is helpful to anyone, particularly to him. I don't think it's helpful for the Democratic Party.
Interesting stuff. Yeah, Hunter's, I fine with how he handled Hunter's rage. But when he says, like, you know, that Kamala Harris being the candidate was a mistake. Okay, George Clooney is the person, frankly, most directly responsible for it moving from Joe Biden to Kamala Harris because of the op-ed he wrote, because of the fundraiser he had where Biden didn't recognize him. George Clooney and Nancy Pelosi.
I was going to say more Pelosi for me, but yeah.
Okay, it's those two people. Barack Obama, it sounds like a little bit behind the scenes. They made things. George Clooney controls a lot of donors, and he made the donor well dry up, and that was the thing that really forced Biden to contemplate. Man, they're gonna. I can still be the candidate, but they're gonna kill me. So he had to get out. The idea that they were going to have some kind of, you know, mini prime, it was too late to do anything. It was too late. They were going to be stuck with Kamala either way because there was not going to be a way to bypass her. And if somehow they had some kind of nominating procedure where someone other than Kamala got it, it was going to look crazy. It was just going to be bad feelings all the way around. So really the point of doing that, I guess, would be to make it seem like Kamala had won it in her own right rather than so maybe there was a benefit to that, but she was still going to be the person either way. Or if she wasn't going to be the person, they were so screwed no matter what, honestly, because of the position Biden put them in. So I don't know that it helps to say, oh, it shouldn't have been Kamala. That was set in stone the minute you decided it wasn't going to be Biden anymore. You would have had to Biden announce he's not running after the midterms, and then you'd have time for other people to mount primary campaigns against the Kamala campaign, and then we'd see, and then maybe she wouldn't have been the candidate.
The book would have been
possibly
called 57 Days instead of 107.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. There. How apt.
I wish that to have in the future the coolness and the calm collectedness of George Clooney, the way he sat back and responded to Hunter Biden. I really just want to address.
He's a great actor.
And he just is so relaxed.
As an actor, I love him in everything.
But I'll say that he if he is as powerful as you describe him, I know that he's a huge donor himself, and that he hosts events.
Yeah, he's big.
Then I think that he should have got involved way earlier. He should have been involved in the fact that people who were reporting and covering Biden before, in the middle of his first term, were saying, he shouldn't run again. No,
he didn't know.
No, but it's not about being incoherent or not capable of doing the job. I certainly was being firm, and other people were being firm that weren't, like Nina Turner, who I know that you do programs with, that Biden perhaps should not be the person to put his name in the hat again. So that process would have started like
Well,
2 years earlier than 107 days.
Yeah, I don't really blame George Clooney for that. He didn't have he didn't see him all that much. We're talking.
Yeah, but
I blame people who saw him day in and day out and didn't say anything.
But my thing is, like, as you're raising money, and right, the money has to determine how far the campaign goes. If he's the top donor, because you're giving him a lot of power over the donations. As Joe Biden started collecting donations to run again, they should have been like, Nobody. We hear about voices. We hear.
Probably assumed that because
What are
the
you
vice
assuming?
president and the press secretary and the advisors and the cabinet, none of the people who should have been raising alarm bells because they're proximate to Biden because they interact with him regularly, since none of those people were saying anything, that he probably assumed, well, he's probably fine. It was the job of those people, some of whom will still be seeking the presidency again: Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg. People who are not seeking the presidency but are still talking for some reason, like Karine Jean-Pierre.
Are you saying
it was their job?
Are you saying that the
to alert
transportation secretary
the
was
public?
supposed to let us know what Biden was doing day to day? That's what you're saying? That the transportation secretary was supposed to...
He met with Biden more than George Clooney did.
I know, but donors could say that Biden was ineffective on things like immigration. There were so many other problems about why Biden shouldn't have run again. I can say that from my purview. People were criticizing this should have been a one-term president. He would have been a noble person to go out like that and decidedly do so.
Trump has meetings with his cabinet constantly. He has them all behind him when he's talking. He's talking to the press constantly. He is on camera constantly. He's talking vigorously and in long form to people at all times of the day. Biden could not do that at all, and people should have noticed that. People did notice that and didn't say anything, and that is what I'm critical of. I don't think George Clooney is like a third-hand recipient of direct knowledge of Biden's state. And then the second he did see Biden's real state at that fundraiser, then he did speak up. So when he was confronted with Biden's infirmities, he actually did do something about it, which is, again, unlike Donlin, Ricchetti, Karine Jean-Pierre, Cutter, all these other sycophants who surrounded him and said nothing.
My criticism
evil people.
My criticism of how it was handled.
Karine Jean-Pierre, you're an evil person.
And that's a bit far, but my criticism of how it was handled remains the same. I think that everyone, if it was the worst of times, and I'll say this again, if it was dire circumstances and they truly did not want to see a second Trump administration, if it was really as bad as they were describing it, then everything should have been done within their power, no matter what Joe Biden said, to make sure that a strong candidate was up against President Trump, because we all knew that he was running again. So the fact that that was what they left us with when they had Biden and then Kamala
They did this.
Karine Jean-Pierre doesn't want to own up to it, but Kamala doesn't want to own up to it. They both said that Jake Tapper's book was a little bit exaggerated, so I don't know what to. I don't know who to believe.
Their silence orchestrated this outcome. This outcome is a direct of Trump having a second term was made likely because of their inaction, because of their cowardice, their inability, their refusal to speak up that the sitting president of the United States would not be able to be president again, actually. And they didn't say anything, and so here we are.
Well, blame them. I'm not going to argue with that.
Got a lot more to talk about on Rising. Stay with us.